Year one of the Rice Owls dynasty may not have ended the way we would have liked, but there are still plenty of achievements and recognition to celebrate. From the season opening goal line stand against rival Houston, to the nail-biting matchup against number 10 SMU, becoming a ranked team for the first time in 60 years, earning an All-American for the first time in 15, making the conference championship, and finally, capping it all off with the first bowl victory since 2014 in the Boca Raton Bowl against Charlotte. This was a great first season for our Owls. And now, none of it matters anymore. 2025 is over, and we look ahead to the uncertainty of the modern college football landscape. Yearly turnover is high, and being an 11-win team this year guarantees nothing in 2026. We need to keep building, which is exactly what we are going to be doing today. Welcome to the offseason, everybody. It is the first offseason in the Rice Owls dynasty here on College Football 26, and this is the fun part of playing these games. I love the strategy and I love playing the games, but building the team in the offseason is really where these games are the most fun and where we finally get to make our mark on building this team in my image. But before we go ahead and meet all of the new players that we're going to be getting here, we do have to recap year one, and there is still some games left to be played. We do have the entire college football playoff that I want to go over, as well as the award winners. I am doing this episode in post-commentary. My plan was to do it live, but I got sick when I recorded the offseason. I tried to power through it, but I got about 40 minutes in. I was still recruiting in the transfer portal, and my voice just had nothing left. So instead, we're pivoting here to post-commentary. Also, right now, you're probably expecting to be seeing the post-game, quote-unquote, press conference. We're going to be changing it up a little bit here. Because the offseason is such a heavily staged event here in CFB26, we're going to be kind of staging the questions and bringing them up as they are relevant. So remember, if you do want to ask a question to be answered in the next video, go ahead and leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to get to it. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you are new, and then go ahead and try out that new YouTube hype feature to push this content out to more fans of Sim Dynasty content just like yourselves. As we go ahead and take a look at our schedule, we get to answer our first question, which is about our coaching staff and if we're going to be making any changes. I don't think so. Right now, I think our coaching staff was really solid. Our offense was mediocre in the beginning of the year, but really turned things on halfway through into the second half. But the defense did falter towards the end of the season. We went from being a top 5 unit those first couple games to still being a good group, but the missed tackles and the points allowed and the explosives really were a little bit concerning. Now, both of our assistant coaches were in the running for the Assistant Coach of the Year award, and I do value the coach stability deal breaker. I don't love firing coordinators after the first year, especially while our grades in other categories are so low. So I want to have some stability here with the coaching staff before we go ahead and make sweeping changes. Now, when it comes to next year, the standard is going to continue to rise. And because of the excellence that we had in this first year, the second season is going to come with higher expectations. And if our coordinators cannot match those, then after next season, I think is when we're going to be starting to look at possibly making some changes. We did highlight at the end of last episode the other bowl games that Sunbelt members were participating in, and overall the conference actually did very well. Arkansas State beat Ball State, we beat Charlotte. Southern Mississippi did lose a close game to Syracuse. North Texas beat Iowa State. Old Dominion again beat UAB in a very close game. And then Louisiana took down Western Michigan by multiple possessions. So a 4-2 postseason here for the supposed worst conference in college football is very good for our conference prestige moving forward. We already knew that SMU quarterback Kevin Jennings took home the Heisman, but he also brings the Maxwell Award home with him. Isaac Brown from Louisville takes home the Walter Camp Award. Coach of the Year goes to James Franklin, but how about our own Zach McGee coming in 7th with the 19th ranked Owls. A very good first season for him and our team. Our assistant coaches, like I said, did very well. Cade Klubnik takes a Davey O'Brien Award. You're going to be seeing a lot of Derek Moore. He won a ton of awards, but you're also going to be seeing Andrew Awe in the running for a lot of them too, and a few with our All-American corner, Amari Porter. Taking a look at his stats, I'm not quite sure what got valued so heavily here to make him an All-American. It might be all of the tackles, because he only had 1 interception, he forced 2 fumbles, maybe it's the 18 pass deflections. I do think he was deserving of some kind of recognition. First team All-American seems a little bit rich, as well as second in the Thorpe Award, but I'm not going to argue with the voters. I'm not going to argue with the recognition. It helps in recruiting is all I'm going to say. We don't have anything here for skill position players or any of the lineman awards, certainly not for any quarterback awards, but we do see that Andrew Awe is going to pop back up here as we get to the Butkus Award. We do see there is offensive coordinator Vince Much and defensive coordinator John Kay in the Broyles Award running, but Andrew Awe comes in 4th for the Butkus. He had a very solid year, and then we know that Chase Allen won the Lou Groza Award, and then for the Jet Award for Best Returner, Aaron Turner comes in 4th. We knew about our 2 All-Americans, but how about our All-Conference players? Blake Bonish, Play Wyatt, Andrew Awe, Amari Porter, and Chase Allen are all first-team All-Sun Belt. On the second team, we don't get any recognition here aside from senior safety Davion Hook, and then we do have 1 freshman All-American in Tyvon Byers. We did get a couple of coaching offers as well, all 4 to be a new head coach for a program. Eastern Michigan and Miami of Ohio, and then Rutgers and Vanderbilt. So we do have 2 Power 5 teams offering us, but we're staying right here in Houston to build something special. Taking a look at the first college football playoff of the Dynasty, we have moved our way here to the national championship matchups. We're going to kind of go over the entire playoff really quickly. You see the automatic qualifiers. Louisville, since they are back in the American, is the group of 5 qualifier. We have 2 qualifiers from Texas schools in Texas Tech and Texas A&M. And the big storyline for me here has to be number 1 Penn State. They went undefeated in the regular season. They blew out Indiana in the Big Ten Championship. They even got over the hump beating Ohio State. And it pains me as a Penn State fan to say it, but James Franklin, it doesn't matter if it's real life or in a fictional universe where he's coach of the year, he still couldn't win the big game, losing the Rose Bowl by 3 to the 8-seeded A&M Aggies, who go on and run the table to make it to the national championship against the 2-seeded Florida Gators. We move on to the next week, and we officially are into the new season, so we get an update to all of our school grades. And the first thing that pops up here, 2.5-star prestige. We were a 1-star prestige school last year. This year, we are 2.5 stars. And this cannot be overstated how huge of an impact this is. We're going to have so many more recruiting hours. We already put together a pretty decent recruiting class this year. We have the possibility to make this even better now. And that coach prestige goes up to a B, which is going to fulfill a lot of people's deal breakers. So a successful season, we're reaping the rewards of it now. Going ahead and taking a look at the new college football history tab. I love that this is a feature in the game now. We see that Texas A&M does take down Florida to win the national title. It's the first national championship that a Texas school has won since that classic 2005 national championship Rose Bowl between the Longhorns and the USC Trojans. So it's great to see that Texas is back on top. We did have a couple of leftover coaching points to spend, and with nothing else here leading up to the offseason for us to use them in, we do go ahead and buy that tier 3 for linebackers to make sure that they get a training boost come the offseason training. that is going to do it for the season recap. Let's now get this offseason started with players leaving. We go ahead and hop in, and we do see halfback one, Max Balthazar, wants to transfer. He's one of the guys that I knew it was going to be really, really tough with his deal breaker of pro potential. DJ Arkansas, Ty Morris, Quentin Jackson, all also want to transfer. We're going to be trying to get some of those guys back. However, one guy that we are not seeing transfer, or two guys for that matter, freshman linebacker Caleb Blanton and freshman center Colton Alberding. If you go back way to the beginning of this, I highlighted them as key players for the rebuild if they chose not to transfer because they were both freshmen with impact development. We do not see them declare that they wish to leave. But now it's time for us to try and see if we can convince any of these guys to stick around, to stay here and continue being a part of this special thing that we're building. We go ahead, start out, try and see if we can persuade Max Balthazar. Everyone's chance here is extremely low. He says no, so he's hitting the portal. DJ Arkansas made the big goal line stand against Houston. He doesn't want to stick around either. We go ahead, move to Quentin Jackson now, halfback 2. He doesn't want to stay. Ty Morris, he does. So we are able to keep around one key upperclassman, and just being able to keep Morris and now knowing that Blanton is not transferring is a huge win for us. I was really concerned that we were going to have to go out and try and get 2 new linebackers if we couldn't replace Arkansas or Morris. Now at least getting Morris back and knowing that Blanton's not transferring, I feel very comfortable in who our starting linebackers are going into next season. And then moving on from there weren't really any guys that I wanted to try and persuade to stick around. They were all guys that didn't fit what I wanted to do or didn't have a path to playing time, like Patrick Creighton, Drew Devier at quarterback. Yeah, he's got impact dev. It'd be great to keep him around, but he doesn't fit what we're doing. Peyton Farmer was our starting left tackle. We go ahead and we're going to see if we can try and keep him. Doesn't end up working. He wants to transfer due to playing style. I go to Dylan Botts. He's a nice speed rusher at defensive tackle. Maybe we could try and keep him around. He was part of that game plan that we had against North Texas to see if we could possibly get some pass rush going. And his skill caps are pretty darn solid. So we go ahead. We're going to try and persuade him here, but he is not going to want to come back either. But the rest of these guys, we're going to go ahead and let them hit the portal and see where their new homes end up being. Now that we've hit that players leaving stage, I think it's appropriate time to answer the second part of our first question, which is, do I see anyone with some NFL or UDFA talent leaving the team? No one ended up getting drafted, but I do actually think that there are 2 players in this team that had the possibility of making an NFL training camp. First, I think it's Blake Bonish. He was the highest rated player on the team. He had double-digit sacks and is a fantastic defender against the run. I think that if given the opportunity to be a team's nose tackle, he would be really, really good. And that's a position where you can succeed as a UDFA. Guys get brought in all the time as UDFAs just to be a nose tackle, and I think he could definitely make a very solid career in the NFL doing that. And then next up, I would say Amari Porter. Now, I don't think he could make it as a corner. I think that he is a little bit too slow, right? Mid-80 speed won't cut it in the NFL. It barely cut it in the Sun Belt. But with his size at 6'2", 200 pounds, and how well he tackles, and we saw him a little bit be used in the slot against Louisiana. He forced a couple of fumbles. I think he can make it work at safety. I think that he can move back there where his speed isn't as necessary, and he'd be a really solid player. Now, I think Bonish has a much better chance of making it because he's got the size and the skill. He just didn't have the ratings. He also had the stats. Porter, more of a long shot, but I think that he's a guy that also had it. And then I do want to shout out Andrew Awe. I don't think he's athletic enough to play in the NFL, but if a team wants basically a Landon Roberts, then I think he could do that. He's big, he's good against the run, get him off the field on passing downs. I think he could play. So I think all 3 of those guys have the possibility as UDFAs. Now that we've gone ahead and sorted all this out, let's get the real meat and potatoes of this thing underway with the off-season recruiting portion. You get a quick look here at some of our big signings that we've gotten so far in season. We still have a lot of work to do, though. Our class is not that big. We have a lot more players to sign before we can field our full roster for season 2. Moving into the transfer portal, this is where the big segment of this episode is going to be coming in. We're going to be getting some more of our questions involved here, asking about what kind of players we're targeting here. Who do we want to be bringing in the portal, both in terms of scheme and weaknesses and strengths of this team. Where do we want to be good? Where do we need to shore up some things here? Starting out at quarterback, I felt like that there was enough good that we saw from Chase Jenkins that we didn't need to bring in someone to directly compete with him. So looking at the guys who were interested in us, the best thing that we had here was Michael Hawkins transferring from Oklahoma. Now, because he is a 4-star, I did want to maybe give him a chance here, but I feel pretty confident with Jenkins as a starter. So I figured, let's go ahead. We had our quarterbacks transfer out. All we have right now is 2-star recruit Chuck Ward committed to us. So let's go ahead and try and find a backup, someone who can compete if Jenkins ended up getting hurt. So that's why I settled on a Johnny Shepard, the transfer from Washington State. I already knew a little bit about Shepard beforehand. I knew that he was kind of like an Alex Orji type of quarterback. Very athletic, very big, very good runner. And then looking at his ratings and abilities, he actually had some pretty good ones. So I figured let's go ahead and put him on the board along with Hawkins and see who we could figure out here could be our backup quarterback. At running back, this is where things got interesting. I knew that we had to bring in someone to possibly be our starter after Max Balthazar transferred. And we have 2 4-stars staring us right in the face. Seth McGowan from Kentucky and then TJ Harden from SMU. You probably don't remember Harden because he didn't play against us when we took on the Mustangs. He was injured and he was hurt for most of the season. Instead, now he's hopped into the transfer portal and is looking for a new home. Now, both McGowan and Harden actually fit exactly what I want to do. They're both big backs, over 6 feet tall, over 220 pounds, and they're north-south receivers, right? So they're able to get downhill, get the tough yards, but they're also threats out the backfield in the passing game. And that's exactly what I want my backs to be. I don't really mind if they're that shifty. I just want them to be a pain in the butt to tackle. And these guys, they're big, they can catch the ball, they don't have to come off the field on 3rd down because they're going to be good as both blockers and receivers. They're kind of the complete package at running back. And I was open to targeting both of them. And again, kind of like a quarterback, just see what shakes out. Whoever the one that we could get the easiest is the guy we're going to go after. As for the pass catchers at both wide receiver and tight end, I didn't really feel the need to recruit anyone who was going to come in and be a starter for us right away. We didn't lose any of our top receivers, Landon Ransom Goals, Artis Cole, Braylon Walker, and then tight end Will Swartz, all returned. None of them transferred. And so I really didn't feel like that we needed to go after anyone heavily in the portal, considering we already had some high school recruits, both at those positions, and I felt comfortable with those guys already starting. Now on to the big boys on the offensive line. I already kind of highlighted what one of my goals was with building the offensive line. I wanted well-rounded tackles, agile guards for the pulling sake, and then just a big mauling center. Now, looking at the available options for us in the portal, I really wasn't that impressed by the offensive lineman. I was prepared to go ahead and make a lot of offers here, but the only guy that really intrigued me was Texas Tech transfer Howard Sampson. Just an absolute mammoth of a man, and I know I said I wanted well-rounded tackles, but when 6'8", 340 is staring you in the face as a run-first team, what are you going to do? Let's be honest. So we go ahead, we're going to add him to the board and see if we can bring him in. Moving to the defensive side of the ball, unfortunately, Buffalo 4-star defensive end transfer Kobe Stewart has locked us out, but we move over to the interior, and then UCF defensive tackle John Walker has not. So we're going to go ahead and try and get him. The defensive line for us is really going to be a mix. There's got to be a lot of versatility in this group. I think what I want to do moving forward is have kind of like a 2-4 on defense, where the defensive ends are a bit smaller, kind of linebacker-ish types, but they're bigger linebackers who can rush. I kind of revealed that plan when I was talking about Caesar Book. And then on the interior, I think we need really just a mix of athletes, right? We need guys who are great pass rushers who can win with power, some guys who can win with speed. And then I do think we need a big nose tackle, right? We really struggle to stop the run, so we cannot ignore that. We're losing Blake Bonish, our best run defender. Now, we are bringing back Matthew Aribasala, who is that gap specialist archetype, but we really need to make sure that our run defense is sound after losing our best player. And a guy like Walker, I think, can absolutely help us do that. No targets here on the edge, though. I didn't love the guys that we had. And we are returning some decent edge rushers, in particular, Damone Green. At linebacker, because of the return of both Ty Morris and Caleb Blanton, I felt very comfortable not having to go after anyone in the portal. I did momentarily recruit and try and go after Charlotte transfer Parker Starts, because he was really big. 6'3", 240 is great size. And I figured maybe he could play like that Andrew Awe role if we go into a 5-down penny front, where he's that one linebacker and he's basically just a nose tackle lined up at linebacker depth. But I ended up pulling out of the battle. It just really wasn't that competitive for him. On to corners, and this is another area where our scheme is kind of dictating a big change here. I didn't target anyone. Now, you may be thinking that we lost both of our starting corners. We did return Jarek Harper, who started some games down the stretch of the season, and he'll be returning as a starter going into next year. But really, my plan is to kind of adopt more of a 4-2-5 style defense, where we have 3 safeties on the field, and our slot corner is a safety. So we really need only 2 starting outside corners, so we don't need a lot of corner depth on the team. Now, I really like some of our corner commits, and we do have a JUCO corner who is really nice that I like right now, so I didn't think that we needed to target corners too heavily, although I did note Chase Canada from North Texas. Remember him from those 2 games we played against the Mean Green. Moving on to safety, and this is one of the big ones here too. 4-star Alabama transfer Keon Sabb. Now, he is a run defender, but you're going to see in a little bit when we look at his ratings that it doesn't matter that he's a box specialist. This guy is an absolute stud. We add him to the board immediately. He's one of my main targets. And then we are going to try and go after Peyton Williams. He's a really good hybrid safety here. Great size at 6'2", 210. He has that build, right, that I look for in that kind of box safety slot corner hybrid type. So he was my backup plan in case Sabb didn't end up working out. The remainder of that first week of off-season recruiting was just spent allocating our points and offering scholarships, so nothing too big there. We move ahead to week 2, where we get this long list of all the updates. We are in first for most of these guys, a lot of these high school recruits as well, so that's really good for us building that long-term development plan as we move on to take a look at some of the more position players in depth. Looking at quarterback Michael Hawkins, he's being pursued by Texas A&M. The national champs are after him. There's no way we can compete. We were in 5th, even with the offer. It was a battle that I wasn't willing to fight for a guy who I didn't even intend to be the starter and just be the backup to Chase Jenkins. So we end up pulling him off the board, and we're going to put all of our points now behind getting a Johnny Shepard. At running back, I think we're in a really good spot. We're in first place here for Seth McGowan. NC State has offered on him as well. And then we are second for TJ Harden. And then we are first also for high school recruit Geo Keys. So I think that we're going to be getting some type of quality running back here as we move forward. The big man left tackle Howard Sampson, we are 4th right now in the battle, but we're right here behind Baylor, Kansas, and Houston. I think this is a battle that we definitely could win if we get in now with the hard sell and all of these points being put in and possibly finding out his pitch before any other school does. I think we could possibly win it. On to the defensive side, looking at the defensive tackles, we already have Garrison Sullivan signed, and we have JUCO defensive tackle Dennis Northrup, who we are wrapping up that battle on. On to John Walker, one of the key 4-stars of this transfer class. 3 teams have offered. We got Florida, the U, and then us. So it's an uphill battle for us, but we're right here. If we can find out his pitch before the Gators or the Hurricanes do, there's a chance. And then we get a really nice look of news here for Keon Sabb. California is the only other school that has offered to him, and I do think it's kind of funny that Michigan is going after him, considering that he was a Michigan transfer who then went to Alabama and is now looking to transfer once again. So the Wolverines haven't offered to him, but I think that is a little bit funny, but we are in first place for him, which is awesome. And then Peyton Williams, we do make an offer out for him. Right now, it's between us and North Texas, and that's it. So a bit of a rivalry here continuing on the field now into the recruiting world as well. Moving on now to week 3 of recruiting, we get more updates here, and the battles are going very well. All of our high school guys we are in first for, and then our big battles we are within everyone's top 3 that we really care about. So that's great to see as we are moving towards the end of the transfer portal period. A Johnny Shepard appears to be a very uncontested battle, so it looks like we're going to be able to get him quite easily. With the running backs, we have some more tight battles here. Seth McGowan, this is a 3-team race. NC State is right behind us, and then Pitt is in a distant third. Meanwhile, TJ Harden is also in a battle with us and Boise State. Pitt also third in this one. So 2 very tight battles. We're going to be keeping both of them on the board to see exactly what shakes out once we can figure out some hard sells and see who's going to end up pulling away for us. With this battle for Howard Sampson, we are in second. It's really us and Baylor. They're the 2 teams that are going to be coming down to the wire for him, but we are a bit far behind the Bears, so we really need to see if our hard sell is able to pull us back into this race. Thankfully, I think it is. That A+ playing time, A- proximity to home for being right here in our own backyard, and then a B- solid brand exposure could be the difference in getting him over Baylor. I do just want to highlight athlete. Right now he's listed as an edge rusher, but I think he's more of an interior rusher. Enrique Wilkes. This is the kind of defensive lineman I'm talking about. He is big, 292 pounds, but he's got some strength in the 80s. He's got some speed in the 80s. He can rush a little bit. Not much of a run defender right now, but he's this kind of guy that we can just wreak havoc with. Put him kind of wherever we want him. We want him on the edge to be big and help in run defense? Sure. Put him in interior and have him rush the passer and win with speed? Go for it. Right? This is the kind of guy that I really want on my defensive line. And right now, it's an uncontested battle. No one's going after him, so hopefully it looks like we're going to be walking to the bank with him in 2 weeks. With the battle for John Walker, we are still in third place, but we do have our information for a hard sell. 2 A+ grades might just be enough to bring us back into this battle here and see if we can take him over the big Florida schools. And then with Keon Sabb, it is a tight battle here still with Cal, but we do know that he has the A+ playing time as a check for his sell, and that his deal breaker is that A+ playing style. So whenever we find out his sell information, I feel very confident in being able to put together a good package to go ahead and get him. Now, at this point, my points were starting to be more available, so I decided to go ahead and actually start scouting some of these recruits, and we start with Keon Sabb. And I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I knew he was a 4-star, so I figured his ratings would be pretty good, but with a box specialist, you really don't know. We go ahead and scout him. Nothing to worry about. 89 speed with 93 acceleration, the man-zone press combo all in the 80s, along with the tackling in the 80s. The guy's got everything we want. He's a complete package, and if we get him, the goal is for him to be that star player for us, playing the nickel, playing the run, just doing everything on the defense. And then we use the remaining of our points to go ahead and try and differentiate between these 2 really good running backs. Taking a look at TJ Harden, speed's fine, right? High 80s is perfectly good enough with your size. The catching is solid. The carrying is great. He's got all 5 abilities, at least with 1 level of them, so he's going to be a really efficient runner. The change of direction is low, but again, it's just not really what I'm looking for with these backs. And then Seth McGowan, change of direction, a little bit better. He's a little bit more athletic. The 75 carrying does concern me a bit, and then he is a little bit worse of a receiver, but either way, both of these guys are so much better than what Max Balthazar was for us last year, and that's not a slight to Balthazar, but just think about what we could do now with these two guys in the backfield, whichever one we choose to go after. Moving into week 4 of 4, we do get our first commit of the offseason period in kicker Mario Dugan. So we do have a nice contingency plan at kicker after Chase Allen. We did have a kicker redshirting last year ready to go, but we also have Dugan ready just in case we need him. And then taking a look here real quick at the overview, we see that we are now in first for Howard Sampson. So that is a fantastic sign for the big left tackle. Now, the first guys I want to really focus on here are these running backs once again. And I ended up seeing the deal breaker bug here for Seth McGowan once again. This was a bug that was in the game last season with all guys who were rising seniors. They would automatically get a playing time deal breaker that would drop down to F in the last stage of the transfer portal. Now, I couldn't remember if this was a bug that was still in the game, so I was kind of freaked out here because McGowan was in first, and it looked like that here in the last week there was nothing that NC State could do to actually catch us. So I was prepared to remove TJ Harden from the board, but now seeing the McGowan deal breaker, I couldn't remember if this bug was still in the game, so I didn't feel confident enough to remove Harden. So now we're playing a really delicate game because Harden, we were in second. So we're playing a really delicate game of, oh goodness, are we going to be able to get either one of them? Because McGowan could lock us out to a deal breaker that I don't know if that's still a bug, and then Harden we just may not get. So I kind of panicked a little bit. I realized I had to keep putting both my points into both of them and just see what happens. I did try and scout some more running backs, but none of them really offer the same skill set as them. So we're going after both, and we're going to see what happens here. Now, as for Howard Sampson, the hard sell certainly ended up working. We go ahead and we jump Baylor in. Now we are right on the edge of being able to get him to commit. And taking a look at John Walker, you see we're making this close. Miami has taken over first place from Florida, and we are slowly gaining at least on the Gators, but it really seems like that the Hurricanes have this thing locked up. And it's a valiant effort by us, but these are two premier Florida schools going after a kid from Florida. This is going to be a long shot for us anyways. We're still going to try for him, but it's not looking too good. And then finally here with Keon Sabb, we are continuing to build a nice lead over Cal. No new updates here. And then with Peyton Williams, I go ahead, I'm going to pull out of this battle here. We're putting our 50 points in, trying to send the house, and North Texas is maintaining the gap. There's nothing we can really do here. We still don't know his hard sell, his deal breakers championship contender. We just don't have a great opportunity to go ahead and get him, so we're going to go ahead and drop out of that race, and we'll let the Mean Green have him. Now, because I do have some hours left, I went back to the high school recruiting board and decided that we're going to go ahead and scout some more guys. I particularly was focusing on wide receivers because I knew we didn't have any transfers coming in, and I wanted to see if we can get some guys here. So, say hello to George Gage, a gritty possession wide receiver, 6'1", about 190 pounds. Now, 80 speed. We're going to have to deal with that. But the 69 run block is fantastic. The catch in traffic, spectacular catch, short route combination, all at 79 is really good. And he's a gem. So yeah, he's not fast, but I look at that skill set and I see a big slot like a Cooper Kupp kind of guy. Or think like Marquez Colston for those 2010 Saints, right? He wasn't fast. It didn't matter. He was still a really good player. And I think with a guy like Cage, if we can get him, we could come out in 10 personnel and basically treat him like a tight end with that amazing run blocking. And I think that would be a really, really good addition for us. Cornell Chubb, he's a solid 3-star athlete at wide receiver, good size. The speed's okay. I'm just addicted to recruiting athletes, especially a wide receiver. I love these guys. I do like his 83 release and 85 spectacular catch, though. And then finally here, Warren Kenoy. He is a gadget wide receiver. Good speed at around 90. And then you see that 89 throw power. And we did have a question asking us about the use of the gadget receiver. I don't really think that it's an archetype that I'm specifically going to be going after. I think about the gadget, at least in this offense, and the role that I want the gadget to be is just a guy who's really dangerous with the ball in his hands. Think what Aaron Turner was for us. That's not what the gadget is in this game. This is more of a wide receiver who could throw the ball. Now, we could go Wildcat with him, and that would be really, really nice, but I don't think that having a receiver who can throw the ball around is a requirement in this offense. My gadget, more so, I want to be just a really, really athletic, shifty guy who's a threat with the ball in his hands. So it's not an archetype that I'm looking at going after heavily, but if we can get it, it's a nice tool to have. Now, you're going to go ahead and see the list of all the recruits committing here at the end of week 4, but I'm going to keep it really simple for you and just tell you about the transfers. We do end up getting Keon Sabb. We get both TJ Harden and Seth McGowan, and we do also get a Johnny Shepard. The recruits we'll talk about a little bit later, but now it's time for us to go ahead and do position changes with the guys that already are here. We're going to start off by moving VJ Bronson off of the edge into his more rightful position at 310 pounds to defensive tackle. The athlete Enrique Wilkes is going to be moving to defensive tackle as well. Athlete Baraka Draft is going to be moving to stand-up linebacker. Caesar Book, I already kind of talked about him in a previous episode. He's going to be moving to defensive end, but he'll be doing a little bit of everything between edge and linebacker. Manuel Riveron is actually going to be moving to tight end. I think that at his size, at 6'3", almost 210 pounds as a freshman, with speed in the mid-80s, I think he could actually be a very solid, split-out wide slot tight end. I don't think his speed will be great at receiver, but I think that he has enough size to be a tight end for us, and we did get a number of wide receiver recruits, so he's going to tight end. And now it's time to go ahead and scroll through and show you the development traits of all of our recruits. Now, I do have the numbers right here for you. So we have 26 total signees between recruits and transfers. 15 of those 26, so 58%, were normal dev. 7, or 27%, were impact dev. 3, or 12%, were star dev. And then 1 in wide receiver, George Cage, with his 80 speed, is elite dev. So overall, 11 out of 26 players having impact or higher dev, that's about 40%. That's pretty solid, I think, for our first recruiting class. And speaking of that recruiting class and its final ranking, it comes in 41st overall in the entire country. It comes in a little bit higher at 36th for just recruits, and then a little bit on the lower side in the 80s for transfers. We didn't have a lot of transfers, but the guys that we did get were very impactful. Moving on to the final and most impactful part of the offseason, the training results stage. We're going to see how much better our players got over the season. Did we get better, faster, stronger, and how much better are we going to be able to compete for a conference championship? But first, we got some dev trade upgrades. Damone Green, our best edge rusher from last season, gets the boost to impact development in time for his senior year. Then we also see quarterback Chase Jenkins get the boost up to impact, looking to go into his second season as the starter. And then finally, linebacker Ty Morris. He sticks around, chooses not to transfer, and gets rewarded by going to impact. For the quarterbacks, this really surprised me. A Johnny Shepard comes in rated higher than Chase Jenkins. And despite Jenkins getting the dev trait boost to impact, he did not have a great offseason. Now, neither did Shepard in the terms of increasing his overall, increasing his ratings that much. The thing is, looking at Shepard's ratings, I actually think he's a better quarterback than Chase Jenkins. Now, I intended for Shepard to be the backup, but looking at these ratings, he's more athletic, he's bigger, he's stronger, he runs with more power, He's got a stronger arm. He's more accurate. Jenkins, one of the big things for him that I wanted was for him to improve his deep accuracy. Remember how hard it was to really throw the ball more than about 20 yards down the field with him? He didn't do that. Shepard's deep accuracy isn't great in the high 60s, but it's better than Jenkins in the low 60s. So I think right now we got a little bit of a quarterback battle and a bit of a question heading into the season about who's going to be the starter. I think that Jenkins played well enough last year to be the starter, but Shepard's come in and he looks like the overall better player. So that's a really interesting development here as we look at offseason results for that position. As for the running backs, we get some pretty modest boost here for Seth McGowan and TJ Harden. The only guy who gets a big boost is redshirt freshman DeAndre Hardiman. He's down here. He's going to get a couple of looks as more of a receiving back. He's a similar archetype to Harden and McGowan. But I'm so happy that we got both these guys, honestly. It's kind of a happy accident that I was worried about the deal breaker for McGowan, that I still went after Harden. Now we got both of these guys, and I think they actually have a skill set that can play really well off each other. Not only can they play the same role as that north-south physical yet capable receiving back, but I actually think that McGowan fits really well into that gadget role. His carrying is a bit lower. He's a little bit more athletic and shifty than Harden. So why not have them both on the field at the same time being capable of getting the ball together? Think about the motion and the jet stuff that we did with Aaron Turner last year. Let's do that with McGowan. Have two running backs on the field all the time. I think that we're going to be leaning even heavier into the running game, especially if a guy like Shepard is the quarterback with how powerful and good of a runner he is. So I think these two guys, they're definitely the best running back tandem in the Sun Belt, and they have the possibility of being the best running back duo in all of college football, especially now that Nick Singleton and Katron Allen have graduated from Penn State. So this is a really, really fun duo, and I'm happy about the accident of possibly thinking we weren't going to get either, so we had to be aggressive to get both. At wide receiver, we actually see some of the best development on the entire team here. Landon Ransom Goals gets bumped up to an 80 overall. He's one of 5 players at an 80 or higher on the team. Artis Cole gets a solid boost up to a 79, but the real guy who gets the spotlight here is Drayden Dickman, getting up to a 78 overall, plus 7, and how about plus 12 to both catching and catching traffic. Dickman was a guy that I kind of thought was just a gadget type receiver. Now, I think he could be a reliable slot. And if Artis Cole doesn't show me what I want to see on the outside, I think Dickman's got the hands to be able to play on the outside and handle that physical contact. So I'm very, very happy about his development. At tight end, we didn't see a huge boost, unfortunately, to Will Swartz. He did put on 5 pounds, which is really good. He's going to be expected to be more of a blocker with Micah Barnett having graduated. Swartz, I think, is a little bit different of an archetype than Barnett. He's a bit more athletic. He's not as good of a run blocker. He's more of a big slot receiver, but I think with him putting on some size, he will be capable as a blocker and will be able to do pretty much everything that Barnett did for us. And now on to the offensive line. Marcus Cormier gets a decent boost up to a 70. He's going to be taking over as a new left tackle. The big guy I want to highlight here is Natane Fehoko, who's going to be taking over at left guard. He was a center for us. We moved him to guard because of his athleticism. And you see that silver quick step and quick drop ability. You know we love pulling our linemen, so he's going to be very, very useful for us there on all the buck sweeps and counters that we like to do. At center, we got good development out of Colton Alberding, so he is going to be taking over that starting job. We also got great development out of the backup, Levi Berry, with a +9, but Alberding, with his youth and that impact dev, is going to be the starter, at least to start year 2. At right guard, we didn't get any crazy development. I actually think that we're going to be starting a freshman at right guard. It's just not a great group right now. I don't think anyone here has blown me away with their ratings who is a returner, so I think we're going to be looking to the young guys to see what they can give us to start the year. And then at right tackle, we got a solid offseason from Brad Bauer. He's going to be returning as the right tackle for next season. Along the edge, we didn't get a ton of overall development from Damone Green. He did get that impact dev boost, but he puts on 2 pounds to get to 252 pounds, and he does get that workhorse and hammer ability. If he can be exactly what he was last year, then I am not concerned whatsoever about his role on the team. Michael Daly, he had a couple of flashes last season. He's going to be taking over as the other starting edge. He gets a +4 in offseason training. And then moving to the interior, we don't get a ton of development here from either Matthew Arbasala or VJ Bronson, but they're two very solid run stoppers in the middle of the defense. I hope that the two of them will be able to make up for the loss of Blake Bonish. At linebacker, the big development that I want to look at here is Ty Morris. He gets a +4 up to an 84 overall. He puts on 2 pounds to get to that very coveted 220-pound threshold for linebackers. I think that's very important for us. I don't want to have very small linebackers, so having them be a minimum of 220 is kind of a mini deal breaker for me. But he also gets really good boosts to his coverage. Both man and zone now are in the mid to high 70s, and he's pretty darn athletic too. So we're definitely getting an athleticism boost from our best linebacker compared to last year with Andrew Awe, where it was a bit of a weakness for him. And then Caleb Blanton gets a very solid +5 from his impact dev. He also hits that 220-pound threshold. He's kind of in that Andrew Awe athlete mold, that high 70s speed, as opposed to Morris, where he's mid to low 80s. Blanton, he's very young, so I think that there may be some growing pains with him, but he does still have 2 years of eligibility afterwards with that good development. I think that he can be a very solid complementary linebacker to what Morris brings. At corner, not a whole lot to write home about. I talked about how we're shifting our focus and not focusing too much on cornerback depth. Jarek Harper is going to be the CB1. I think that he played well down the stretch. And then I actually think that the JUCO recruit, Jacques Sly, is the favorite to be the second corner with his star development and then very good athleticism. At free safety, Jack Kane probably had the most disappointing offseason of any of our starters. He did not really get any better. He did improve his run defending ability a little bit, got a bit stronger, but he didn't improve any of his athleticism or coverage ability. That being said, however, Keon Sabb did. He is up to a 92 overall. He is the highest rated player on the team, the first player on the team that we've had with a rating in the 90s, and his athleticism scores are just off the charts. This guy is absolutely nuts. He can do everything, and we're going to expect him to do everything. He's going to be playing in the slot. He's going to be playing in the box. He's going to have to stop the run. He's going to rush the passer. He's going to blitz. He's going to play man coverage, zone coverage. We're going to have him erase tight ends. We need a guy like this in our defense for it to work, and he is that linchpin for us. So let's go ahead and put a nice bow on this offseason. We do have some coaching points now, so we have unlocked the recruiting tree of the coaching ability. So we're going to go ahead and start looking at that, as recruiting is the first big thing on the docket at the start of the new season. We're going to go ahead and get the tier 1 for offensive line and defensive line, and then by tier 2 as well for the defensive line. We scout a lot of linemen on both sides, and because Coach McGee is a former defensive end, we want that increased starting interest from defensive linemen. And here is our schedule. I spent quite a bit of time trying to put this together. I didn't have a lot of options with how our conference schedule and the locked weeks ended up working out for us, but I do like this schedule. I'm keeping the week 0 matchup against Houston. I think this is a great thing for us to do at the start of every year. Kind of a home and home series every year in week 0. It's a proximity-based matchup. Both teams are basically just traveling 5 miles across the city to play each other. Kind of a nice rivalry week to get the palate going as college football kicks off in week 0. So I think we're going to keep that. We're going to keep playing the Texas teams, and for our big-time Texas program we're taking on, it has to be A&M. They won the national title last year. We got to see if we can beat the best, right? We're going to Kyle Field in week 3 after our conference opener against UAB in week 1. And then we're playing Houston, a very mid-tier Texas team. We're playing A&M, a high-tier Texas team. I figured it was fair for us to choose a lower-tier Texas team to play for our final out-of-conference game, and so I ended up choosing UTEP. And now our conference schedule, I think this is a very good schedule. We got a lot of people that we didn't play last year. We still get North Texas, which is great. We also get to play against UAB and Arkansas State, the teams that came 3rd and 4th in the conference last season. So I think we have a very tough conference schedule, but we do see a lot of familiar faces here with Troy, South Alabama, Louisiana, Georgia Southern, and Georgia State. But because we get that rematch with North Texas in week 5, I'm really, really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be kind of our first built rivalry that we have in this series. We're going to jump ahead now and take a quick peek at recruiting for next season. The train never stops in college football, does it? So because we have improved our prestige so much, you can see just looking at these prospects we have available who are interested in us, we got a lot more to work with. And let me take you through a couple of my favorites. Starting off, all these guys are on defense, actually. A bunch of 4-stars on the defensive side that want to come play here. We're going to start with edge rusher Darren Tompkins, 6'4", 285, fantastic size. He's a guy who can kind of go either way. Is he an edge rusher? Is he an interior guy? With that athleticism, size, and strength, my answer is yes. He can do it all, right? So he's a guy that I am definitely interested in, and he is very interested in us. He has us 3rd on his board right now, so that's looking really, really good. Next up, I think we have my favorite recruit of this entire class so far. This is defensive tackle Jared Johnson. He has a 2nd, 6'2", 339 pounds. As an 18-year-old high school player, this is a mammoth of a man. We were worried about Blake Bonish leaving. Here's your Blake Bonish replacement right here. And he's even faster than Blake Bonish. Bonish had 50 speed. Jared Johnson's got 63. So I see this, I saw the size and the beef on this guy. I don't care what the ratings are, and they're good ratings. I don't care. We need this beef in the middle of our defense, so we are really going to be pushing to go after him. We do have 2 4-star linebackers who are interested in playing for us. We're only going to be having 2 linebackers on the field most of the time, so I don't want to over-recruit the position, but Ashton Hemphill is a gem. Very good athleticism, great size at over 230 pounds with that 84 speed and 78 zone coverage. And then we look at Kai Hope. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit slower, but he is still quite good in coverage. If I had to take my choice, if I could only pick one, I would definitely pick Hemphill, but we're going after both for right now. And then to round this thing out, we have another edge rusher here in Enrique Cardoza from Plano, Texas. He's an edge rusher through and through, 6'3", 246. That's fantastic size. What really stands out to me here is the 90 strength at his size, along with good athleticism and decent power moves. I think he's a guy that definitely can play on the edge and be a very, very solid run defender, at the very least with that strength. The block share needs to come up, but I really like his athleticism scores. And now taking a look at some projections here with the Sun Belt preseason all-conference team. Starting off on the first team, we are owning a lot of hardware here. A Johnny Shepard, Seth McGowan, TJ Harden, Artis Cole, and Colton Alberding are all there on the offensive side. And then defensively, Matthew Aribasala, Ty Morris, Caleb Blanton, Jack Kane, Keon Sabb, and then both of the freshman specialists, Mario Dugan and Jerry Azur, are going to be making the first team. I'm not sure if Azur is going to be starting. Alex Pachetta had a very good offseason, so I'm not in a huge rush to start Azur if we don't have to, so he might catch a red shirt, but he is rated very highly. Both of our kicker and punter freshman recruits were rated very, very highly, so we did a good job recruiting those positions. And on to the second team, Drayden Dickman, Landon Ransom goals, Natani Fiocco, Cole Morgan, and Brad Bauer make the second team. Cole Morgan's not going to be starting at right guard. He's going to be a backup, but still good recognition there on the offensive side. And then transitioning over to the defense, Damone Green, VJ Bronson, Jarek Harper, and then funnily enough, Alex Pachetta. So we have the first and second team preseason all-conference punters. But that is going to do it. We have made our way through the offseason in just under an hour. I hope that you enjoyed. I do apologize it's not live commentary. I feel like that I kind of had to piece together what I could from the pre-recorded footage and then doing post-commentary over it. If I was feeling better when I recorded this, I definitely would have done live comm, because I feel like that it would be a lot better to get the actual emotion of things happening and the surprise of events as we go from there. But that's going to do it. We are in week 0. We're ready to play against Houston. First game of the year is going to be coming at you really quickly. I'm going to be working to finish the version 3 of the Auburn playbook in time for this game, and then play this. We'll get another Chalk Talk up afterwards, so I'm hoping to have this game coming out end of the weekend, beginning of next week. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you are new, and remember again, if you have any questions that you want for me to answer in the press conference at the start of next episode, go ahead and submit those down below. Take care.